This is the Shaver Prep Football Podcast, Episode 6, presented by Aquarius Home Services and brought to you by Truestone Financial. I hope you had a great Labor Day. What a crazy week last week in high school football in Minnesota on Thursday night because of all the storms that rolled through. Some of the football games were pushed back in time from 7 o'clock to 8:15, 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30 even. And some of those games even got moved to Friday, which meant a 10 a.m. start for Coon Rapids High School, the home team taking on defending 6A champion Centennial on Friday morning. The Cardinals hoping for the upset. But the Cougars picked up where they left off last season, starting 2024 with a convincing 42-0 win over Coon Rapids. And last Thursday night, Duluth East upset Esco 24-14. East won one football game all last year. And in their three previous meetings with Esco, they got absolutely waxed. But they turned that around on Thursday night last week. And I talked with new Duluth East head coach, Blaine Tatro. All right, let me get this straight. Esco beat Duluth East the past three seasons, 63-6, 54-0, 55-0. Blaine, you take over as head coach. It's your first year. Your first game is in Esco last Thursday night, and you win 24-14. How in the heck did that happen?
Well, yeah, Randy, it's tough to look those results, and we got seniors who, collectively, I think that's 172-6 over 3 years, to lose games like that, and so very exciting for our program to go in and opening game and really tough one out there, adjusted start time due to the weather, and just see our guys really committed to what we're trying to do now with the new coaching staff and a lot of new things at East, and really, pull one out there, kind of gut check at the end, and we survived, and big win for the program, no doubt about that.
All right, so in the body of this game, there were four fumbles by Esco in the first half, which certainly helped your cause. They had a 32 game regular season winning streak that you snapped, along with, winning this game against a team that had dominated Duluth East over the last 3 years. Was it a thing where you knew going in, this team had the confidence and the ability to do this? Or as the game goes along and you're winning, you can kind of feel and see that your team is believing that this can happen?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I with East football, I think there's always been some really good talent here. And, it's just a matter of bringing it all together. It's been a hockey school, right? But there are
Right.
athletes, and I think hockey has proven that there are good athletes. So we were able to put it together. Great coaching staff, great group of young guys. But what we're able to do is just work. It was a team victory, right? We did have a couple of guys stand out and who performed very well, but collectively we were able to come together, really execute well. I mean, it wasn't a clean performance by any measure, but we made the plays when we had to make them. Yeah, got the big turnovers, got a couple big runs, and just did enough, at the end to make it happen.
You win one game last year, Duluth East does. They win one
Right.
game. So you've already equaled that and you're on your way. What's the feeling like? What was it like after that win for your team, for your fans? And what does that hopefully send a message for the rest of the season?
Sure. Well, first, I'd say I'm just so proud of these young men in our locker room. They've worked so hard for this. And, just my joy for them to finally beat a really, strong ESCO program, to finally get over that hurdle. We're not there yet, right? This is one game. I like to think of it as kind of a cornerstone type of game or victory where it's just one piece to that foundation that we're building as a program. And we're going to lose some games here and there. We'll win some more too, but we want to build that foundation right. And this will be a big part of that. And yes, there is a lot of support at East High School, the community of Duluth, real alignment from the top down, from our principal to our activities director on down. So everybody, they want to succeed at this. And we do have the resources and definitely the talent to make this happen.
All right. So Blaine Tatro was on the All Metro team that I put together on Channel 11. You were on the 1990 All Metro team. You were a linebacker on Fridley's state championship team that year in 1990. What lessons did you learn from your days at Fridley that have stuck with you through your career? Because you've coached in college, you were at St. Thomas for 7 years. You've coached college. You're back in high school now. What are some of those lessons that have stuck with you?
Sure, of course, I am a representation of those cumulative experiences, right? So yes, it goes back to Coach Jim Perry at Fridley High
Yeah,
School, running the split back veer, and that's what we're doing now. I'm excited to kind of bring the split back veer back and just that hard nosed mentality. And then, you know, coaching at St. Thomas was such an impact on me, taking a 2-8 program to 7-3 a year later, and then helping propel them to national championship games. So, a lot of lessons there. Understanding, that alignment I mentioned, that's important, but also surrounding yourself with talented coaches, right? I can't do it myself. And so you have to have those who you can believe in and you can empower them and they can help you out. So a lot of lessons there on how to just organize. And it's a process, right? That's really what I've learned. It's a process. A win like this is just one step in that process. And I talk to my players a lot about, there's always that carrot dangling out in front of you, right?
right.
And you're probably never going to get that carrot, but you always need to strive for that carrot. And, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves here and think we've totally arrived yet. We haven't, but it certainly is a great start.
Well, they took a big bite out of the carrot last Thursday night in beating Esco. Congratulations, Coach, on win number one at Duluth East. You get Hibbing on Friday night, and should be a great season. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you for what you do for high school football.
By the way, senior running back Michael Lewis had a big game for Duluth East, 146 yards and 2 touchdowns in that win. On Friday night, a special night at Fillmore Central High School as they remembered the late, great Dell Elston. Dell was the longtime football coach at Harmony and Fillmore Central from 1970 to 2006. He passed away on August 11th at the age of 83. On Friday night, family, friends, and fans at Fillmore Central honored Dell at Dell Elston Football Field. Dell Elston won 187 games in his career, but his impact went way beyond the scoreboard, and he will be missed in that community. Minneota, well, they extended the longest current winning streak in Minnesota Prep football to 21 straight with their victory over Russell Tyler Ruthven 54-21 last Thursday night. And congratulations to Wabasso. They beat McRae 18-6. Wabasso didn't win a game all last year. Our Talk North Walk the Talk winners this week are Detroit Lakes quarterback Caden Strand, 5 rushing touchdowns and a TD pass in an upset win, 41-14 over Ricori in 4A. And St. Paul Johnson junior receiver Justice Moody scored 6 touchdowns, 4 receiving, 2 rushing, including a late game run to win the game 38-35 over Highland Park. Moody caught 6 passes for 202 yards, and the 6 touchdowns tied a school record. Well, if you're a prep football fan and you want to know the latest scores as they're happening, I've got the guy for you. Former Vikings linebacker Chad Greenway will join me in studio in just a few minutes, and I'll explain his Minnesota prep football connection. We'll also tackle cancer with the man who started it all in Minnesota, Dave Nelson, Hall of Fame head coach, and why TC is going strong now in year 13. We'll also look ahead to 2 big games this week, Eden Prairie at Edina and Dassel Cokato at Annandale. But first, check this out. 54-yard made field goal by Alexandria's Daniel Jackson last Thursday night in a win over Chaska. The video provided by Prepper Elite. The 54-yard field goal is a career best for Daniel, and it ties for the second longest prep field goal ever made in Minnesota. And I talked with Daniel recently. Daniel Jackson joins me. He is a kicker with the Alexandria football team, but maybe more important to him, as you can see by his t-shirt, he is a Gopher commit. He committed to the Gophers back in May, and I'm sure you're just super pumped to get a chance to kick for your home state football team. Tell me a little bit about how, because you have been out there for a while. I have seen your name. I have seen your stats. I have seen some of you during the last couple of years when I did the Prep Sports Extra on care. But it's all led to this. So kind of walk me through how you ended up getting this commitment to the Gophers and tell me how excited you are.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm extremely excited and extremely blessed to, play for the team that I've always cheered for. But just sticking to the specifically, committing to the Gophers, there's a lot of story before that, before this. But so I went to camp my in between eighth grade and freshman year, and I kept going to camp sophomore year. So I did good freshman year, came back sophomore year, got a preferred walk on, came back junior year, was told by Coach Fleck that just to be patient, they want to offer me, be patient. And then this May, I got the FaceTime call and it finally happened. And I'm actually going to camp again this Saturday.
So you're excited about what football could mean for you down the road here. Tell me a little bit about you. How are you a different kicker from a year ago to now? How have you gotten stronger? Tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, it's a lot of work. Probably three main things. I would say one, just kicking. I have a kicking coach, Joel Monroe. He
Yeah, I
is
know
our high
Joel.
school's kicking coach, and
Yeah.
he's incredible. I was just kicking with him this morning, and I always learn something every day. Two, lifting. Trusting the coach's program, Coach Empting, Coach Orgeman, and three, track. Just getting faster, getting my leg speed improved. It's really helped. Joel was telling me this morning. He was like, every single year, your kickoffs they get like so much farther and so much higher just because of all the training that you've done. So every summer you can so in the winter you can't really see what it looks like, but then when you come in the summer, it's like a huge leap.
And you've seen that with you.
Yeah.
And maybe to follow up on that, I saw something on X. I want to say it was in June. You were showing off kicking 66 and 65-yard field goals. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that. Was that kind of like, all right, I've done all this work and now I'm going to go out there and kind of show what I've done or what
Yeah.
I can
So,
do?
yeah. So, the other kicker from this past year, Joaquin Ramos, he graduated this year, but we like to go off to different places to kick. And that time we were at University of Minnesota Morris, pretty close to Alexandria, and their turf is open. So I was out there, and it was kind of a quartering tailwind, and it wasn't super windy, but I was just hitting a good strike, and I just kept backing it up, and I was like, "Hey, Joaquin, can you record these?" And then I ended up backing up to 66 yards.
What did that feel like?
It was good. I mean, I wouldn't say it was anything like crazy out of this world because I know I have the confidence to hit from that far consistently if I need to with that conditions. But it was still great. I was kicking good that day, and it always feels good when you're kicking like that.
So the longest field goal I think that you've made in your career is at 52, 53 yards. Is that
53 yards. Yep.
53 yards? So this is 13 yards. Would your coach even let you try that?
I sure hope so. I know he's been talking about it, but we just have to have the right situation.
Maybe a little bit of wind behind you too wouldn't hurt,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Well, the
So
furthest I've hit in practice is 71. So hopefully we can, at least 60 plus because the state record's 57. So I really want to break that this year.
So tell me about your journey to be a kicker because a lot of times kickers in high school are soccer players, right?
Mhm.
They actually play, soccer and then they come over on Friday nights and they kick for the football team. We've seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
Is that how you started or were you just a pure, this is what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a kicker.
Yeah. So, my story is very unique. So you see the Vikings
Yeah.
uh, thing back there, but 2015, it was Blair Walsh, 27-yard field goal left hash. And he missed the field goal. And I as
I
in
was there, by the
ever.
way.
Really,
Yeah.
I was devastated, as I'm sure every single Vikings fan in the world
Yeah.
was. And I went to the back room and like cried or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is horrible. So I went and I taped together 27 yards, went out to my backyard to kick, and I didn't make anything. I was horrible.
That's
So
amazing.
I so a few months later, I kept kicking on my own. A few months later, I sent a letter to Blair Walsh, and he actually responded, gave me some kicking gear, and I've been kicking ever since.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, were you a football player at the time, like a different position? I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
so yeah, I played basically all the sports. I was a football
Yep.
player. I did do
Yep.
but I actually quit soccer when I was probably 1 or 2 years into kicking because it's a little different and it messed
Yes.
up my
Right.
kicking.
Okay.
So I was so driven and focused on kicking field goals and for football, and so I just quit soccer. I was like, soccer's not my passion. I thought, I did soccer to help my kicking, but if it's not helping my kicking, then why do soccer?
Gotcha. So, if there's high school football players out there right now who are eighth grade, freshman, sophomore kickers who maybe they play soccer too, but
Hmm.
they kind of see a path for them to be a kicker beyond high school. What would you recommend? What are the things that they should be thinking about right now that maybe you did, that you focused on that would help them in their football journey?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get too focused on, seeing the results and posting, their biggest kick ever. What it really is about is being consistent. And, like it was for me, being consistent, going to these university camps every year, showing them that, you know, you do what you do every time. Sometimes people go and they have one good camp, but, just focus, don't always focus on results, focus on improving, lifting. I always recommend track. It's improved my kicking greatly. And, just always focus on improving yourself.
But even before you get to those camps, you obviously have to be pretty good because you
Hmm.
don't want to go to the camp and suck, right? So you
Right.
obviously have you know that you've got the skill level to be able to compete at a camp like that. So
Yeah.
even backwards from the camp, what should they be
Hmm.
doing to prepare themselves just to get to the camp to show themselves?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of local kicking coaches across the country. It's a really great resource, and you'll improve your kicking abilities really fast. And before you go to those camps, you're probably going to want to go to a kicking coach's camp and kind of evaluate yourself compared to how you stack up against other kids. Because my eighth grade year, I went to my first camp, and I didn't know if I was going to be good or not.
Okay.
Um, I knew where I was at, but I didn't know how that was against other people. And I ended up doing well. So then, I had the confidence that I could perform at these university camps.
So when you get up there to line up for a 53-yard field goal in high school, what's going through your head? Do you have butterflies? Tell me about what that feels like.
Yeah, well, I just stay focused. Obviously I use the game adrenaline as a positive and not a negative. I always think, like for my kickoffs at least, the game adrenaline adds an extra 5 to 10 yards always. And so when I'm lining up for a long field goal, I don't ever think, oh, I have to kill this ball, I have to crush it, because I really don't. The game adrenaline is going to get it there. I just focus on, kicking a clean ball. Whenever I get back in my steps, I say to myself, good contact right down the middle. And so far it's worked out.
It sounds like a golfer's mentality. Don't
Hmm.
step up and kill the ball because you'll always flub it. Just let the
Hmm.
club do the work. Is it kind of the
Right.
same thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. A lot of kickers are golfers too.
Yeah. Are you a golfer?
A very poor golfer.
A much better kicker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question. You go to Minnesota next year, you're going to kick for them. Ultimately, what do you want to do with this? Do you see yourself as an NFL kicker? Is that the goal here?
Yeah, absolutely. Ever since I started kicking, it's always been, I want to be an NFL kicker. And, going to Minnesota is obviously a great step in the right direction, but there's still a lot more work to be done to get to that level.
Well, I wish you nothing but the best. We look forward to watching. You had a really good team last year, right? You guys were 11-1. You went to the state
Yep.
semis against St. Thomas Academy. Um, got a good team coming back? You feel pretty good about
Yep.
where you are? Okay.
Yep. We have a very good team coming back. I'm really excited for what the season can bring.
You guys open up in the cities against Chaska on Thursday night, August 29th. And then from there, who knows where this season will take you. I appreciate you being on, Daniel. Good luck to you this year. And we'll be keeping an eye out on you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. To be honest, I'm a trust guy. If I'm going to let you into my home to repair or upgrade something, I'm going to trust you do it right and provide great customer service for peace of mind. Well, Aquarius Home Services was all that and more. They installed a new Connecticut water system in my home, great drinking water from my faucet, by the way, and an air purification system, so no more dust in my home. It's been a game changer. Quality, service, trustworthy people. Aquarius Home Services, earning the right to be recommended. Our Talk North games of the week this week include a terrific 6A matchup between Eden Prairie and Edina, both winners in week 1. And in the outstate, an incredible rivalry, Dassel-Cokato against Annandale. They last met in the state 3A semifinals last November, with Annandale winning 24-14 to make the Prep Bowl. Friday night, they meet again, this time in Annandale. The Cardinals have a D1 offensive lineman in Gavin Wang. They'll run behind him all night. Here's Annandale head coach Matt Walters on the rivalry between DC and Annandale.
Well, you see the smiles. I don't smile on Friday night because I'm a little nervous playing them, but it's a great rival. Ryan Wynot has done a tremendous job with that program. And I think we kind of came up together. This is my 25th year. I think Ryan's been there 20, 21 years. We both kind of struggled early on, and we kind of got good at the same time. So I think that's kind of where the rivalry comes from. Plus, we're 30 minutes away, and it's kind of gone back and forth. They got us a couple years ago in 2019 in the state semifinals. That's why last year was so big for us to get them. But it's a healthy rivalry. I think the players respect each other. I think the coaches and the staff respect each other. They're very well coached. I know we respect how they play. Their kids play hard. They play tough. It's a physical brand of football. Kind of the old Wright County matchup again. And our community support it. And we go to their places at Packed House. They come to our place at Packed House. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of good football. They've had some great players. We've had some great players. So I think that's when our kids always put a little star by on the calendar every year.
And in Class 6A this week, Edina, state runner-up last November to Centennial, winners in week 1 versus Egan, are led by junior quarterback Mason West. Edina was picked by one publication as the preseason #1 team in 6A, which head coach Jason Potts says, hold on a minute.
Yeah, it's always exciting to be honored as #1 team, but, we had a little talk, and it takes what it takes. It takes a lot of work. We know that. We have a lot of veterans back. They know that. So we're honored that would come out, but we kind of look at it as it's really, in the all scheme of things, it's meaningless. We're flattered, but we have to put in a lot of work, and we will do that. And, staying with our core values, effort, attitude, mental toughness, that's what we're focused on.
Eden Prairie at Edina this week. This game has been circled on the calendar since last November. That's when Edina beat EP in the state 6A semifinals to advance to the Prep Bowl. Revenge is on the minds at EP. Here's head coach Mike Grant.
Edina has beat us a couple times over the years. And, last year, disappointed. They just played great. I think we've said to the kids all year, Edina just played great, and, you got a few breaks, but our kids will be ready for that one.
So many football games on a Friday night to keep track of. How's a sports fan supposed to do all that? Well, it's pretty easy with an app on your cell phone. And the man behind it, former Vikings great linebacker, Chad Greenway. For high school football lovers out there, when you're at a game on a Friday night and you want to know what's happening in other stadiums and other teams, this app right here, this Minnesota Score Feed app that you helped create, is now in my hands. And if it's not in yours, you're making a big mistake, because this app literally changed my world last year for the Prep Sports Extra, thanks to you.
Absolutely.
I want you to explain this a little bit, where people can find this, because it's free and you are able to find every high school football game in the state and get the score in real time, which is amazing.
Yeah, so the genesis of that was the app was started in South Dakota. South Dakota Score Feed was the app originally. I went back to South Dakota to watch my niece and nephew play. My sister was on this thing. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
Then my daughter started playing high school hoops the next year. And I'm like, I literally just emailed the app. I was like, I want to be a part of this. How do I bring it to Minnesota? They emailed me back. Away we go. And they brought it to Minnesota. So the app itself now, we have volleyball and football in the fall, all basketball and hockey in the winter. And we call it the go-to high school sports app. It's like the ESPN app for high school sports, where you rosters, schedules, scores, live stream links, which is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned it's fan driven. So moms and dads, every volleyball point, boom, they're punching that thing, they're updating the scores. If you have that as a favorite team, you're getting notified immediately the score has changed. Same with football, same with basketball, and so on.
How do you do that? Do you have people at every game? I mean, how does that work?
So it's a trickle. So basically, we launched it. Nobody knew about it in Minnesota, and all of a sudden, like I did a bunch of radio interviews, TV interviews.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you start to get into 10 hands and 100 hands, and just extrapolates out. And then fans and parents really like to keep track of those things, so they're very, very. They're very upfront and aggressive with, I want to put the score in. I want to be, we know who the scorers are. We know who the users are who are doing it. So we have a team originally that comes in as a sport manager of, say, football. We'll have a 2 or 3. And they're literally watching live stream games, and they're keeping scores. And then as that sort of feeds out in the community, less and less and less and less. We're now 90%. I think we're at 92% of all football games in Minnesota were scored by fans in stands. And it's been here for, that was the second year of football. So it's happened that quickly.
Wow.
And the adoption rate really came quickly. And then, of course, with basketball, it's more challenging. Hockey, because you have a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Saturday, or a Tuesday, Friday, whatever it is.
Right.
And we come to find that's all pretty much the same as well. Less adopted in certain areas in basketball as consistently as football, because I think football is just like, it's Friday night. It's that one time. It's one game. But basketball's coming along as well. And that was at around 80% by the time we got to playoff time last year for basketball. And some of the cool stuff is everybody always says, like, well, where's the playoff bracket for our section basketball tournament?
It's on your phone.
It's on your app.
Yeah.
It's right on the app. We build up playoff brackets for section by class. Really easy to navigate. And I think the interesting part for me is I love high school sports. It's by far my favorite level of sport. My kids won't even be playing that night, and I'll be live streaming a game of somebody that I'm just interested in, or kids that we know, or whatever it is. I might be at a game live streaming another game. So it's really fun to be a part of it. It's fun to be able to bring it here, and now we're actually in 8 states.
That's fantastic.
And it's expanding. It's been one of the many things I've got going on, but it's been a lot of fun.
I kid Ben Lieber all the time that he's the hardest working man in show business. I think you're right next to him. As Chad played 11 years for the Vikings. He was drafted in 2006. He had a great career, professional career. But after your career ended, your work really started. You're in the vodka business. You're in all sorts of different things. Why do that? When you've got 4 girls, they're all going to be great athletes, and you could be busy just doing that.
Yeah, I am busy just doing that. So that's, I retired in 2017, really my last game in 16, and I did nothing except raise kids and have fun doing that. And I coached all my daughters in soccer and hoops, and my wife has done some of that too. And just really have invested in my family. Had opportunities to do, I had interviews with CBS and Fox and NBC, all when I retired, to go call games. And I had these 4 young kids. We had just had our 4th during my last season. And I'm looking at them, and they're looking at me, and I'm like, they want their dad home. Yeah. And if I go make that choice to say, I'm going to go call games for CBS or Fox or whatever the station is.
Your fall is done.
You have 16 road games.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'd rather play and make more money for another couple years and have half those games be at home. Or if I do retire, and at that point I was retired, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Because I felt like that was a selfish choice to keep my name in the lights and do things that I want to do when really my kids just want to be home. So then sat there pretty idle for about a year and a half, didn't do a whole lot. And then the Grey Duck boys approached me. They had this concept and idea, and they said, we want to start a vodka based off the Grey Duck concept of Minnesota and why we're all so proud of it and how it's unique to us. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I said that a couple times. And then I said yes. And I've learned so much from that business. We're 5 years in. The challenges, the ups and downs, the hardship, what really makes business and relationships work is with handshakes. It's looking somebody in the eye and telling them the truth and being honest and integrity. That stuff really matters in that world. And really hard to differentiate yourself. So now, as you said, we have a vodka and our seltzers, and we have a spiked cold brew coffee. We have a beer that we have a great relationship with the Gophers, and we give a lot of money back to Dinkytown athletes, the NIL there. So,
which is great.
And then amongst many other things I have going on. But my first actual job when I retired was to run the Wayzata Youth Girls Basketball Association.
And that is a job.
And that is, I've been the president now. This is going to my 8th season.
Fantastic.
And I have, we have 500 girls from 2nd to 8th grade.
That's great.
From rec to travel to, I help put together all the teams, and we have a great board and stuff. But that's the longest unpaid position. And if you've probably been a part of a board over your years, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Not always the easiest, but lots of hard conversations. And I felt like that was the best way for me to immerse myself in a community where I was just a dad and a board member and not former athlete. So my kids could have a normal upbringing was kind of my reasoning for that.
So high school football, let's take you back to Mount Vernon, South Dakota, because Chad won state titles his junior and senior year.
Yep.
You were a quarterback, you were a safety. The numbers are mind-boggling.
Yeah.
3,000 yards passing, 3,000 yards rushing, 2,500 yards passing, 23 interceptions, 407 tackles in your high school career. You were a monster in high school.
Yeah.
No wonder you loved that time.
Oh, I loved it.
No wonder you were a stud. These numbers are outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have grown up in a better community. Mount Vernon's population, it was 368 growing up. It's probably about 400 now, so we're growing. I played 9-man football. It was just what we knew. It's all we knew. We had a co-op school that we played with, Stickney. So it was Stickney Mount Vernon Knights. And that was how we grew up. And, it was football to basketball to track to baseball and on and on and on. We played 4 sports. We never specialized in anything. And football, I didn't really think I was going to be a football player in college until my junior year. And when I started to really grow and get stronger, I wanted to be a basketball player. I'm in the South Dakota Basketball Hall of Fame, so I was pretty good at that. But my opportunities for future were in football, and I just really started to love it. And numbers were obviously staggering. But I always like to tell this story. If I could give you a favorite sports memory of all time, any level, Big Ten championships, NFC championship, my favorite sports memory is in high school, after my state championship game my senior year, in that locker room with my guys. Went to kindergarten with them, went to first grade, 8th grade, get in trouble at recess for playing tackle football, the whole 9 yards. And that's my favorite sports memory. And without that team, I don't get a scholarship offer. So it's all about the team.
Which is why high school sports is so special.
Yes.
Right?
Special.
It is why when you hear professional athletes, and I've had, Ben Lieber sit here and some other guys, and Matt Burke, he will say, my most favorite memories were in high school, not necessarily the NFL. Burke won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's high school, which is crazy to me.
I think it just comes down to relationships. And I can think back to all those guys I graduated high school with, running the overpasses for conditioning in the dead of heat, going to training camp.
Exactly.
And, just those memories kind of, I think, bring you back to your childhood and how simple and how fun it was, where it wasn't, a lot of people have played high school football and have the dream of playing the NFL.
Right.
Well, we've done those things and look back at our careers and be like, but that was the best moment. And I had one scholarship offer out of high school, and that was because our team made that state championship game. And then somebody watched that game, called Coach Ferentz, and said, hey, have you seen this kid? And he's like, we have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they came up and checked me out. A kid backed out of a scholarship. They offered me a scholarship. I went down there as a quarterback and safety, and the rest is history as I changed positions. So pretty amazing.
Became an All-American linebacker.
Became an All-American linebacker a couple years
University
later.
of Iowa.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We talk about getting great advice from coaches. And on this show, I ask my guests, what's the best advice that you ever got from a coach, a mentor when you were in high school, junior high, that has stuck with you all this time?
Mine's real simple. It was from my dad right before I left to go to college, and big change, big shift. Had a lot of fear of failure. I was the only Division I recruit in the state of South Dakota that year for football. The whole community on your back, the whole state on your back. Want to make my family name proud, and his advice was just don't forget where you came from. And at the time, as an 18-year-old kid, you're like, what does that even really mean? It means the literal, right? Like, don't forget, like, grow up on a farm and community and how you got to this opportunity.
Yeah.
And now as a man, as a 40-year-old man looking back, having kids, I'm like, it means so much more, because then I became a pro, and I realized I didn't have to change who I was to fit in. I didn't realize I didn't have to change who I was to be popular or be a celebrity or be a good football player.
Yep.
And I think most importantly, my work ethic from growing up on that farm and having all these different responsibilities that I had as a farm kid really paved the way from a work ethic and an understanding of what it was going to take to be great. So just that was the best advice I got.
How crazy is it? At one time, Brad Childress had 2 South Dakota linebackers starting. That you and Ben Lieber. That's crazy that you both came from these small towns in South Dakota.
Amazing. I mean, so the perspective there is I grew up watching Ben. He's about 4 years older than me, and he's from Vermilion. So I just knew of him, got to watch him play in high school. And then he, paved the way just from a mentality standpoint of like, this is really possible to go to Kansas State and do what he did, get drafted. Then Mike Miller grew up 12 miles from me, the former NBA player, 17-year pro. So he was 3 years older than me. I got to see him and his journey. I was like, okay, I can do this.
So it makes it possible for you.
It opens up your mindset to be like, yeah, why not? And then, I go through the whole process at Iowa, get drafted, and Ben comes in as a free agent the same year. It was just perfect.
Yeah.
And really became, at the time a mentor, now a very close friend, and somebody I will always look up to. I'll be in my 80s and I'll look up to Ben, just how he operates and how he's a husband and a father, and the way he treats people, I think is really something to be learned from.
So you have a daughter, Madden, who's a great basketball player, also a great soccer player. Colin Rooney, the head football coach of Providence, told me he wants her to kick for his team. He told me you're all in.
Yeah.
But it hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet. So she's she's a junior. She's a tremendous athlete. She's always been. She loves sports. Soccer was her first love, and now she's kind of gone towards collegiately, at least wanting to play basketball in college for more, just for opportunities. But she's led the state in goals scored 2 years in a row. She's on a great pace already, 2 games in. Got a tremendous leg.
So she wants to kick. Do you want her to kick?
I would love her to try it because I think it'd be fun, and I think it's a great story just to add to her already really illustrious career.
Yeah.
She's had some reservations on what that does for her. I think within the school scope of like where that puts her in a social dynamic. Talent wise, there is not a question. I've had her kick footballs. I know what she's capable of.
Wow.
She could very easily. I'm not saying she'd be the best kicker on the team. I don't know even who they have as a kicker right now, but she would be very good. So and
fun to think about.
It's fun to think about. I would highly encourage her to do it. I have every year, and he'll keep asking. Going into her senior year next year, I will say to go do it. Yeah. And then go make the kick up, go make the tackle and kickoff too. Yeah. Don't be so soft. That's what I'd say probably.
But last question. So we have high school football coaches and players who watch this podcast. Give them some advice. You've had this incredible football journey. You had a great career in high school, great career in college, played 11 years in the NFL. What would you tell high school kids who are thinking, who want to do what you did? What's the things they should think about, work on, mindset?
Yeah, I think it's never what people expect. I was talking to a group of kids on Monday at a youth football camp out in Bismarck, actually, North Dakota. And you see kids in line, the coach is talking, and the kids' eyes are all over the place, right? They're 7th grade kids, 8th grade boys, and they're just distracted. Yeah. And I was like, the quickest way to not play is to not understand what your job is. And you don't understand what your job is because you're not listening. Not everybody's capable, if you have an ability to hear, to listen to the coach, to focus in, to be locked in because you care enough about it. And I said, it's really the intangibles that always kind of set yourself apart. I always thought that my career separator was not physical. I mean, I was physically good enough. I was fast enough, strong enough. But I always thought it was the things that take little to no talent, like my attitude, my enthusiasm, my effort was always there, just non-negotiables for me. But if I was going to tell a high school athlete this, play multiple sports. I think it's really important to be, if you're a football player and you're a stud football player, go be a role player on the basketball team because you're going to be a role player down the road. Yeah. Go be an average player that does, hey, we need you to rebound. We need you to defend. We need you to score, whatever that is. Go run track and get humbled on the track. Yeah. And I do it with my own children. I mean, Madden's a state track champ as well. I want you to run hard, do hard things, run 300 hurdles, run 400s, run 800s, and just see what you're made of. What's the fabric inside of you when things get really hard? Because that's life. And B is like, and you know that better than anybody, is what's your reaction going to be when things get tough?
Yeah.
There's a couple paths.
It's easy to have character when you're winning.
Yep.
It's when nobody's watching.
Yep.
And you're working. That's where the character is.
Yeah. And then the two other things I would say, I think the two kind of key words that I always talk about when I'm speaking to kids or to adults that, like in business, they're looking for an edge or a change. Yep. One would be consistency. Is just, can coach count on me to be the same person on Wednesday that I was on Monday, in week 12 as I was in week 1? When things are tough and we're losing or when we're winning, like, can I just always be the same guy?
Yeah.
Am I willing to sacrifice and play through things? Just that consistent effort, consistent energy, consistency on the field. And then the second one is reliability. And those two are different in my mind, because to be reliable means, first of all, my best ability sometimes was just availability. I was available. I was healthy. I was willing to play through injuries or be hurt and just be uncomfortable. And not selfishly because you want to go, look at me, I'm doing this. It's because the team needs you. And, I think from a teammate standpoint, reliability means something different. If my job is to not go make the tackle, but to spill that football to E.J. Henderson or to Ben Lieber, but I want that notoriety, I want that attention, and I take a shot, and all of a sudden that running back cuts back and my gap's open, and he hits his head on the goalpost. Well, I'm not reliable. I'm not a reliable person. Yeah. I can't be counted on. And that's, to me, is why football is the ultimate game, is you're one of 11 defensively, and everybody has their role. And if one person's out, it may be all it takes. And I think those things are really the most important. And for young kids, just be an athlete. Go do a bunch of stuff. Be average at something. See what that makes you feel like.
Don't pigeonhole yourself.
Don't pigeonhole yourself. Yeah, and I was going to be a basketball player until I was 17, 18. And all of a sudden, just boom, because I was an athlete, it changed.
Yeah. Great advice. I appreciate it so much. A reminder, Minnesota Square Feet. If you want to keep track of all the high school football throughout the season, download the app. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. It's great to see you. I appreciate it.
Great to see you as well.
We'll be right back. These days, you can get a checking account, a credit card, or a mortgage just about anywhere. But what you can't always find is the personal touch of a neighborhood credit union like True Stone Financial. I've known the folks over at True Stone for years. They put people first. They take time with you. They get to know you, and they use their expertise to connect you with services that help you achieve financial well-being. True Stone is a not-for-profit financial institution owned by the very people they serve, and they're in your neighborhood. Visit truestone.org and get to know them, and they can't wait to get to know you too. True Stone is an equal housing opportunity lender. Stadium construction at Rogers High School has forced the Royals to play 4 straight games away from home, but in the end, it's going to be worth it. Here's what head coach Mark Franz told me.
Goes way back to a bond in 2019 before COVID, was stadium updates. And they did one during COVID. They did the field during COVID. But yeah, now we're doing the front entrance, the concession stand, the ticket booth, the bathrooms up there, and then also on the north side down there, storage buildings, but they'll double up as halftime team rooms for the home team and for the visiting team. So
is that one of the reasons why 3 of your first 4 games are on the road this year?
Yes, we did lose and we lost one of our home games. So week 3, we're supposed to be hosting Irondale. Unfortunately, I mean, as cool as the updates are, they will not be done by week 3. So we'll play neutral site that week 3.
That game against Irondale will be played at Elk River High School next Friday night. The Rogers Stadium, by the way, when it's all finished, said and done, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. I was at Ricori High School on August 21st and saw junior tackle sensation Andrew Trout in a walking boot, out for the regular season with an injury suffered during 2-a-day practices. He had surgery at the University of Minnesota in late August, and Ricori hopes to get him back for the section playoffs. But it's quite a blow. He's one of the top players in the state as a junior. Here's Ricori head coach James Herberg.
It was really tough. He's obviously means a lot to our football team. We had plans to play him both ways a little bit, not full time, but just kind of progress him into that because he's that type of player. It was devastating, but our team has responded. To Andrew's credit, he has trained up the guy behind him, next man in. I mean, literally, he's been a coach, which has been incredible to watch. And, long term for Andrew's future, that's a big thing. Being able to step aside and teach the game you also learn and develop as a player as well. So that's been a huge maturation point for him. I'm super proud of him for that part. So, I mean, a lot of guys, they're going to be off on the sideline and stuff. He's not. He's in every drill, coaching up the guy in front of him now. So that's been great. But, he got good news. He's going to be back later in the year, and, that's kind of when it matters most. And in the meantime, he's going to help us develop some depth with some other guys in his spot.
Well, the Minnesota Coaches Association Tackle Cancer campaign really kicks off this week. Money raised supports cancer research and patient aid projects through the Randy Shaver Cancer Research and Community Fund. And I had a chance to talk to the man who started it all back in 2012, former Blaine and Minnetonka head coach Dave Nelson. All right, well, Tackle Cancer really gets going across the state of Minnesota this week as we get into week 2 of football season and everybody starts to get back to school and those kind of things. Dave Nelson, former head coach at Minnetonka, and Blaine is the person who started Tackle Cancer 12, 13 years ago. It's been so successful. It raises money for cancer research and patient aid throughout Minnesota through my charity, the Randy Shaver Cancer Research Community Fund. We've talked ad nauseum about this, and I pretty much know when I ask you a question what the answer is going to be, but there's a lot of people out there that don't really know, or maybe have heard tackle cancer but don't really understand what it is. Can you kind of explain what this is and why the MFCA, the Minnesota Football Coaches Association, got involved?
Well, I think I'll start at the beginning.
Yeah.
I had prostate cancer in 2011, had surgery down at the Mayo Clinic in April. And you reached out to my wife and I, Maureen and I, soon after that in May, and invited us to your gala, which at that time was at Rush Creek.
That's correct.
Maureen and I went, and we were blown away with the passion and the support and the things people were doing to raise money for your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So on the drive home, I talked to Maureen. I said, you know what? Our football team, this would be perfect. We need to do something. So we just happened to get approached about from a condominium. They wanted all the rock removed.
I remember.
So we called it Rock Cancer. We raised $5,000.
Yes, you did.
We had dads out there. We had players. It took us about 5 days. And you were nice enough to come out. We had a group picture. I still got it in my office.
Yeah.
And I remember presenting the check to you at Maynard's. We had lunch, and I gave you a check for $5,000. And then after that, we went through the season. I was on my way to an executive committee of the MFCA.
Right.
And I said, this would be great if other teams did this too. So I called you. I was on 494. And I said, Randy, what do you think?
Yeah.
And you gave it a blessing. And although probably not sure what we're up to.
Yeah.
And I explained it to the MFCA executive committee, 100% unanimous. I couldn't even finish my thought, and let's do this.
Yeah.
Tackle Cancer was born. We met with Roseanne at Plums in St. Paul.
Roseanne, my wife.
Yep, Roseanne. And Bola Bor was there, and Jeff Maritko, Jeff Ferguson, Shannon Garrity. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. But and we talked to Roseanne, and she probably get a little skeptical meeting high school coaches at Plums and what we're up to. But she came up with the name Tackle Cancer and the logo. Yeah. And Tackle Cancer was born. In the first year, we raised $121,000, which was a great start. And now our goal is $600,000. So $3.5 million later, Randy,
it's amazing.
Yeah, we're really proud of the effort.
So 2012 was the first year that Tackle Cancer began across the state of Minnesota. Last year, you set a record, and I have it here, $568,479. This money goes to cancer researchers at the University of Minnesota, Mayo Clinic, UMD, patient aid projects across the state of Minnesota, across the state. And I know you emphasize this, and so do I. It is not a metro-centric event. This is something that is statewide, and it's becoming more statewide every year. You are getting more teams involved. How do teams get involved? If they're listening to this podcast and there's a booster member or a player or a coach and say, gosh, we need to be doing this, what do they do?
Well, every head coach, high school and college, has received a mailing with posters, instructions, where to send the money to, really a kit on how to do it. We have emailed every head coach different ideas.
Yep. On how to raise the money.
Sure, good practices of what other schools are doing. And then we just ask the coaches to give it a shot. And really, for the head coaches out there, you don't have to do this yourself. You've said several times, or many times, that cancer touches us all. Every community is going to have
Exactly.
people that are passionate about cancer research. And so get a committee, have some parents lead it, get out of the way, and let them do the work. And just some unbelievable stories about what's happening in schools across the state of Minnesota. And so really, they should have all the information they need. Plus, we have divided the state into 16 sections, kind of based geographically on region play and whatnot. And the rep is in touch with all the head coaches. So really, there's not an excuse for not knowing, how to do it or how to get it going. And we're all here to support.
One of the concerns I had is when I finally would retire from TV after doing the Prep Extra show for 40 years at CARE, what would happen to tackle cancer? And you told me after the first year, we're in it for the long haul. You've been in it for the long haul while I've been in television. Now I'm out of that. Are you still in it for the long haul?
Oh, absolutely, Randy. And you're no longer at CARE 11, but you're still, along with Roseanne, the face of the Randy Shaver Cancer Research and Community Fund, and that's what we're really in it for.
Yeah.
And having you at CARE 11 was nice, but I think the thing that drives us is to raise money for your foundation because we believe in you, we believe in Roseanne, we believe in the whole deal. So that's not going to go away, and I promise you,
you heard it,
that we are here for the long haul.
Well, I appreciate that. One last question, and we've talked about this before. It's not always necessarily about the money. It's not, but it's about what it means to a program, to a community. When you show young kids that it's important to do something bigger than yourself, how do you think Tackle Cancer has accomplished that?
Well, you just look at some of the things that go on in different high schools and the videos that they make about tackle cancer videos, and it really, I think, makes people stop and pause and say, you know what, haven't thought a lot about this in the past, but this is a unbelievably big issue, and I think it gives them a good feeling for being a part of it. And then to be a part of a statewide, every Friday night we're competing against each other, but this is something we can all come together with, players and coaches, communities, schools. I think it just brings everybody together. And I think high school students especially feel really good about doing something good. And this is certainly an easy way to do that.
Well, I appreciate that very much. We'll be talking a lot about tackle cancer on this podcast and telling people who is hosting games throughout the season. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
You bet, Randy.
I appreciate
Thank you.
We'll be right back. By the way, In Play Sportswear is selling these stocking caps with the Tackle Cancer emblem on it during the football season for $20, and $10 of that will go directly to Tackle Cancer. They are the color lavender, which is the color for all cancers. So if you're interested to buy a hat, maybe a couple of them, all you have to do is email tacklecancer@inplaysportswear.com. That's tacklecancer@inplaysportswear.com. Well, here are some of the big matchups Friday night, September 6th to watch for. Brainerd at Elk River, 7 o'clock, big game in 5A. A couple of huge games in 9-player. Nevis at Ogilvie, Park Christian at Fertile Beltrami. Andover is at Mankato West on Friday night. Minneapolis North travels to the beautiful stadium at Ricori to take on Ricori. That should be a great game. And Shakopee and Prior Lake. That Shakopee-Prior Lake game is a huge rivalry. And Shakopee head coach Ray Benton told me his players are pumped.
Yeah, kids talk about it. That's that thing talked about all year. I mean, we won last year, and and we haven't won there at Prior Lake. So that's going to be a big game. But kids and communities, both communities are excited about it all year long. So that's going to be a big one, and it gets after.
I sure hope you get a chance to get out and watch some high school football this week. Should be a lot of fun. Next week on this show, former Viking great Matt Burke will join me to talk about his football journey and why Matt loves high school football so much. Also, Forest Lake defensive tackle great Howie Johnson will join me, future Gopher, and he will tell us all about why he loves yoga. That's on next week's show. For producer Alex Haugen and the great folks here at Talk North, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.